الرحيم ولقد كتبنا في الزبور ولقد كتبنا في الزبور من بعد الذكر أن الأرض يرثها عبادي الصالحون إن في هذا لبلاغا لقوم عابدين وما أرسلناك إلا رحمة للعالمين وما أرسلناك إلا رحمة للعالمين صدق الله العظيم وصدق رسوله النبي الأمين الحبيب الكريم.
Whilst I don't have the English translation for the first part, I'll just translate the last verse, which I think is very important. It says, وَمَا أَرْسَلْنَاكَ إِلَّا رَحْمَةً لِلْعَالَمِينَ. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, was sent as a mercy for the whole of humanity. And again, we see this in everything that we do, that whether it is mercy, our faith is one of mercy. When it comes to the issue of humanity, there's a verse in the Quran which says, if you kill one human being, it is if you have killed the whole of humanity. And if you save one life, it is as if you have saved the whole of humanity. That's why we say that terrorism carried out in a distorted way of our faith is an affront to our Islamic faith. And obviously, as we have just heard from the Holy Quran, I'd like to call upon Haris Tabriz from Oldham to come and recite a nasheed, a poem in memory of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. Haris Tabriz.
सल्लल्लाहु अलैका या रसूल अल्लाह वसल्लम अलैका या हबीब अल्लाह नेमतें ताजे समत वो ज़ीशान गया नेमतें बांट ताजे समत वो ज़ीशान गया साथ ही मुंशी रहमत का कलम दान गया नेमतें بانٹتا نعمتیں بانٹتا جسم وہ ذیشان گیا نعمتیں بانٹتا جسم وہ ذیشان گیا ساتھ ہی منشی رحمت کا قلم دان گیا نعمتیں بانٹتا لے خبر جلد کے غیروں کی طرف دھیان گیا لے خبر جلد کے غیروں کی طرف دھیان گیا میرے مولا میرے آقا تیرے قربان گیا میرے مولا میرے آقا تیرے قربان گیا نعمتیں بانٹتا آج لے ان کی پناہ آج مدد مانگ ان سے آج لے ان کی پناہ آج مدد مانگ ان سے پھر نہ مانیں گے قیامت میں اگر مان گیا پھر نہ مانیں گے قیامت میں اگر مان گیا نعمتیں بانٹتا سمت وہ ذیشان گیا.
Indeed, Harris Tabriz from Oldham reciting a poem in memory and to honor the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. Once again, I'd like to welcome you here formally on behalf of myself, the Ramadan Foundation, and also the Honorable Sheikhs of Eidgah Sharif. Sufism is at the heart of our Islamic identity and the work that has gone on. The Honorable Sheikhs, Sheikh Muhammad Nakibur Rahman Sahib and their beloved son, Sheikh Muhammad Hassan Nasibur Rahman Sahib, have been working tirelessly over many generations of families to promote the values of our faith, which is tolerance, respect, and the service of humanity. And if you were to go and visit Eidgah Sharif, and you have a standing invite from Qibla Pir Sahib to all of you to visit the shrine of Eidgah Sharif in Pakistan, or if you were to visit any of the shrines in Pakistan, you will see that there is no discrimination. There is no discrimination at all, whatever your faith, whatever your ethnicity, and whatever your background. The doors are always open. And you see, particularly in Eidgah Sharif, I've been there many times, that you see food distributed for free, 24 hours a day. You don't see that in many places, a free food service as well. And obviously we gather, particularly here in Greater Manchester, to remember the 22 victims who sadly lost their life in the Manchester Arena attacks. We remember the 150 people who were injured and the hundreds of people who were traumatized by that. But as I often say, on that night we saw the worst of humanity, but we also saw the best of humanity. We saw taxi drivers, 80% Muslim, picking up people for free and dropping them off on their home. I spoke to one woman on a TV program I was doing, where the taxi driver took them 60 miles to the other side of Stoke-on-Trent in Staffordshire entirely for free, just to make sure that the woman and her daughters who were at the concert were able to get home safely. We saw the takeaway workers who were distributing food, members of the Sikh community who were giving langar out food to the masses of people who were out there helping, the police, the intelligence agencies and the emergency workers. I'm very proud to call myself a Mancunian. I'm proud of the fact that the work that we do is here in our great city. And we send out a very strong message that the people who set out to harm our communities won't succeed. Islam is at the heart of everything that we do, and we believe the message from the sheikhs and the scholars who are here as well is very clear, that the message of the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is about tolerance, respect, and coming together in service of humanity. So it gives me great pleasure for Councillor Shadab Kumar, the Lord Mayor of Oldham, to formally welcome you here to the town of Oldham. Please come and join us and say your opening remarks. Councillor Shadab Kumar, who is the Lord Mayor of Oldham. For those who don't know what a Lord Mayor is, it's a ceremonial post which a person is allocated for a year to serve the people of your community. Thank you, sir.
Thank you for that very humble introduction. Just to correct, there's only one Lord Mayor in Manchester, and that's Lord Mayor for Manchester sitting over there. I'm just the Mayor of Oldham. There's only one Lord Mayor, so just to get protocols out of the way, please. At football grounds and go to cinemas and markets and are all vulnerable because these terrorists want to target gathering and kill as many people as possible. We all know some brave, dedicated people in our police force, hospitals and public services. People who deal with this on the front line and make life-changing decisions about our safety, and also are there to respond in such events. To them I say thank you, and I know we have some police officers here today. The terrorists try to create fear and hate in our communities, and as we feel the extensive and profound shockwaves of the acts that they commit, they want us to blame each other. We can't and we won't. We have to hang on to the sense of shared grief, shared shock, shared compassion that unites us, and make the Sikh people realize that what they have done has made us stronger and not divided us. So I'd just like to extend, that's obviously the written formation, but I'd just like to extend obviously my gratitude for holding this event in Oldham. And we've had quite a few events in Oldham like this, but I think if anything that's been learned from the atrocities that took place across the UK, it is that we are better as one, and we're better united, and we stand united against these horrible, despicable people who try to divide us in the UK. We will not let that happen. We are not divided, and we stick together and do good for our communities. So thank you for holding this event in Oldham, and I wish you all the success. Thank you.
Thank you very much, the Mayor of Oldham. Councillor Shadab Kumar, thank you so much for joining us. I know you have to leave, but we thank you for coming on behalf of the Honourable Sheikhs. One of the things that I did in the immediate aftermath of the Manchester attacks, literally 24 hours after it happened, I brought together some faith leaders and we had a vigil in St Anne's Square in Manchester. Rabbi Warren was there and many other faith leaders were there. And we did that because we wanted to show solidarity for the victims, but more importantly to send a very clear message that terrorists aim to divide communities. And in that, we wanted to show that we won't be divided. And it's so important that faith plays an important role in our lives and in our country and our societies. Whether it's the Christian faith, the Jewish faith, the Muslim faith, the Buddhist, the Sikh faith, the Hindu faith. Faith is very, very important. And the fantastic work that the Archbishop of Canterbury, Justin Welby, has been doing on this particular issue. And then when we saw the Finsbury Park Mosque attack, terrorist attack, within hours he was on the scene showing solidarity and love for the victims and their families and the community of Finsbury Park. He is a tremendous leader of our state, of the United Kingdom. He plays a very active role in bringing communities together. I know he's very close to the Honourable Sheikhs. He invites them every year to Lambeth Palace, and they honour him, and there is a great relationship between our faith leaders. It gives me great pleasure to invite the Reverend Nick Andrews on behalf of the Church of England here in Oldham to come and say a few words on behalf of the Christian community. Thank you. Welcome. Thank you.
I feel a bit overwhelmed being asked to say something about on behalf of the Church of England. I'm a humble parish priest, not very far away from here, up at St Thomas's Church on Coppice, St Thomas's Werneth, and also St Paul's on Ashton Road. Many of you who are local will know those churches. I've been touched by the warm words about love, solidarity, and standing together in the face of violence and terrorism. And as a Christian, I believe in the ultimate power, the ultimate victory of love over violence and hatred. And I believe that we can all share, to some extent, in that truth. Jesus talked about a love which crosses boundaries. I was thinking of the parable of the Good Samaritan, which I think in the church sometimes we forget, and we think it's just about doing good deeds to your neighbour. But it was actually about somebody who did a good deed above and beyond the call of duty to someone from a very different ethnic group, to someone he had every right to leave suffering. But instead he put him on his animal, he took him to the inn, he put oil on his wounds, and he left money that he could be well looked after and returned to pay the debt. I guess actually I feel a little out of place in a place like this where many faith leaders are gathering together. There are many people in the Church of England who work in that way, and I'm grateful for them. What we seek to do in my two parishes is to work in a very small, in a very humble, I believe in a very significant way, to bring people together from different communities, that relationships can be formed and that people can grow in love and trust and respect. The women at St Paul's have a sewing group and a textile group. They have sewing machines, and sewing and making things is something that brings women and some men together from right across different communities that live in the area. Angolan, Sri Lankan, Pakistani, Bangladeshi, English, different communities. Women from those communities come together and they make things together. They get to know each other. They grow in love and trust and welcome and support. In a sense, that goes back beyond terrorism, looking at some of those basic relationships that are so important for our well-being as communities. The other church that I have to do with is St Thomas's, just up on the hill in Coppice. And it's strange, really, in a parish that's 90% Muslim, what should a church be? What should a church do? We have responsibility for St Thomas's Church of England primary school, attended by 89% Muslim children. And we seek to hold the church, we seek to hold the school as a place where all are welcome, whatever their faith, where all can grow to understand each other, to learn about each other, to celebrate differences, and thereby to grow in faith. And finally, St. Thomas's Church. The Victorians loved to build churches and fill them with pews, the fixed benches, the seating, so it couldn't be used for anything else. It's just full of pews. Or we hope to move the pews to open up the space for use by the community, so that it can be used by many different members of the different groups in our community, where people can grow together and find the church to be a place of love and support and welcome and help in times of difficulty. That's what we're discerning to be our role as a church in a place that's full of a place where Muslims live. I guess 3 different ways in which we as a church seek to respond to those forces that would devise us, those forces that would reduce and take away our humanity. I guess the last thing I want to say is we also have to look at ourselves as a church and those times when power has corrupted the truth of our faith. I guess I celebrate Henry VIII and the historical accident by which the Church of England came into being. He wanted to marry someone, and so he had to leave the Roman Catholic Church and set up the Church of England in order to allow that to happen. And that agenda that he had is writ large. We can't avoid it, but it's there. And it makes us always think, challenges us to think, where politics, where power, where self-interest corrupts the message of religion, that love that we should have for each of us, that love which crosses all boundaries, that love which ultimately overcomes everything. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much. Reverend Nick Andrews from the Church of England here in Oldham. I'm going to get through quite a few contributions, so if I could ask that we kind of keep our Muhammad Iqbal, who's the chairman of the European Islamic Centre, sir. He's also the chair of the Oldham Faith Forum. Welcome, sir. This is a magnificent venue, heart of the community. We're very grateful for your support and the ability to hold this event here today. On behalf of Oldham councillors, please welcome Councillor Atiq Rahman to say a few words. Whilst I'm here, I might welcome, I think, your first big public event, Wajid Khan, the newly elected member of the European Parliament. It's great to have you here, and it's a great honour for us to have you as our member of the European Parliament. Thank you. Thank you.
نحمده ونصلي على رسوله الكريم أما بعد فأعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Can I first of all begin by thanking the organisers for organising this extremely important event, but more so for organising it in our town, Oldham. I would like to formally welcome His Worshipful, the Lord Mayor of Manchester, Councillor Eddie Newman, Sheikh Mohammed Naqib Rahman Sahib, custodian of Eidgah Sharif, and his beloved son, Sheikh Hassan Hasibur Rahman Sahib, distinguished guests. Now, Brother Shafiq has put me in a bit of a dilemma here because I'd prepared something which was my views, and he's asked me to speak on behalf of the Oldham councillors. So I'm speaking on the assumption that they all agree with me. We stand here today united to condemn the terrorist activities that happened on our doorstep, and also the terrorist activities that are happening all over the world. And this is our way of showing our unity amongst different faiths and different races. But I also think that it's an opportunity for us to talk about some of the difficult questions about how we tackle terrorism and what are the origins of the current wave of terrorism that's blighted not all over the world, but our own community as well. So before I start that, I would like to remind people that the 22 victims of the Manchester bombing, 2 victims were from this very town. So while we share the grief of all 22, but 2 of our own citizens in this town lost their lives going about in their normal way to these senseless, brutal terrorists that I believe have no religion and are just basically inhuman. I mean, if you look at the history of terrorism, it's always been a battle of ideas reflecting a desire for violent and immediate political transformation. The technologies available in a globalized world today, however, have expanded the theatre of conflict into a broader swath of spaces, governed, less governed, virtual than ever before. And unfortunately, groups like Al-Qaeda understand how they can now wield influence as effectively with a small video camera and an internet, with an improved explosive device. Such groups also invest heavily in their marketing capabilities. They have articulated a clear mission statement and excelled at this from a strategic communication. And they're crafting messages which are obviously not true, propaganda, but because they've learned the use of these tools, they are somehow managed to perpetrate globally. And yet they don't have the monopoly on this. States and international organizations and voluntary organizations like ours have our own narrative that shapes identities and relationships and the interactions amongst people and state. But we find ourselves often struggling with these extremist messages, and we find sometimes unable to draw on our own compelling stories on the effect of terrorism. I'm really sad to say that my personal belief is that the war on terrorism is not working, neither here nor abroad. Now, many experts, including professionals in our intelligence and security services, have pointed out the connections between wars our government has supported or fought in other countries and terrorism here at home. Now, that assessment in no way reduces the guilt of those who attack our children. Those terrorists will forever be reviled and held to account for their actions. But what we do need to do is have an informed understanding of the causes of this as an essential part of an effective response that will protect the security of our people, that fights rather than fuels terrorism. We must be brave enough to admit that not everything we are trying is working. We need a smarter way to reduce the threat from countries that nurture terrorists and generate terrorism. I personally believe that we should focus, the fight in terrorism should focus on a diplomatic solution to international conflicts like Syria, the Middle East, and North Africa, as well as the preventative measures closer to home. We must take all actions necessary to counter and confront ISIS, advocating a long-term multinational political strategy led by regional actors to tackle the spread of extremism. The current atrocities home, where we all recognize the efforts of our police force, our public servants, they went over and above their duty, and they showed examples of the commitment that we have towards each other in actually on the aftermath of these acts. But we also need to recognize that these services are very stretched. We need to provide our security agencies with the resources and powers that they need to protect our country and keep us all safe. Finally, we need to review, I think, the PREVENT anti-terrorist strategy, which is designed to safeguard vulnerable people who may be drawn into terrorism and stop them from being radicalized, with a view to assessing both its effectiveness and its potential to alienate minority communities. Now, our own Mayor, Andy Burnham, has criticised that because he's labelled it as a toxic policy which can leave Muslims feel picked upon. So the solution is that there needs to be a proper consultation with all communities and professionals and a bottom-up approach to formulate a policy which we can all sign up to and feel the ownership of. In our part, locally we must unite and be on the forefront of condemning terrorists, their ideologies and their actions. Each one of us needs to assume the role of an ambassador of peace and unity. Thank you very much for inviting me and giving me the opportunity to share some of my views. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Atiq Rahman. I'm absolutely certain that your colleagues will certainly agree with you. If they don't, you can certainly have a word with them. I'd like to invite, on behalf of the Sikh community, Sukhbir Singh to come and say a few words, and then we're just going to take a short video just to give you an introduction to who the Honourable Sheikhs are and the work that they do in Pakistan. I also like to welcome Sahibzada Adnan Qadri Sahib, who's also come all the way from Pakistan to be with us. He and his institution in the heart of the northwest frontier of Pakistan is doing some magnificent work. So thank you so much for joining us and blessing us with your presence. Sukhbir Singh, thank you, sir.
Lord Mayor, honoured guests, Sheikh Sebji and his son, and everybody else. Sikhism actually believes life is sacred, and the tragic events that happened in Manchester were totally against the whole of the world, not just Manchester, primarily because, as I've said, life is sacred. Sikhism has very simple morals and values. It says that we need to be truthful, act with honesty to everybody. Doesn't matter what faith, what colour you are. We need to be content and compassionate to everybody, and we need to feel the pain. And at the same time, we need to be humble and without ego. Those terrorists who actually attacked on that tragic day, were people against all communities, the whole of Manchester. Now, Sikhism believes in one God, and all humanity is created equal. It doesn't matter whether you're fat or thin, short or tall, black or white, man or woman, rich or poor for that matter. We are all created equal in the eyes of God. That's irrespective of faiths, caste, creed, and disability. Having said that, we need to go forward as a community. The tragic events that occurred brought the whole of Manchester together. And in fact, I've actually had messages of support, not only from the UK, but from all around the world. The key message that keeps coming back, it wasn't a religion that actually caused any problems, it was some individuals. Yeah? Sikhism believes in very simple values. And it says, on my closing statement really, Sarbat Dapala, Sarbat Dapala, which translates, blessing for everyone, and may everyone prosper, and may all religions prosper.
Thank you very much indeed. I want to invite, on behalf of Manchester's Buddhist community, Catherine Liu. Oh, sorry. We've had a change that I didn't know about. Sorry, I forgot your name, sir. Maybe you can introduce yourselves on behalf. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Obviously, I'm not Catherine. My name is Stuart Parsons. Dear friends, I've been asked to give a small talk on faith, tolerance and peace from the Buddhist community perspective. As a poor devotee, my speech is based on the triple gem, the three jewels all Buddhists take refuge in: the Buddha, his teachings, which we call the Dharma, and the community of spiritually developed followers that we call the Sangha. And especially my master, the Venerable Singyen. But first, I bring you greetings from the BLAA, the Buddha Light International Association, an international organization made up of lay and monastic volunteers that number over 1 million people worldwide. I also bring you respect from the Manchester Fo Guangshan Buddhist Temple. Its primary objective is to serve all sentient beings, to spread joyous spirit amongst all people, and to nurture the virtue of compassion. The Buddhist faith is an acceptance of the Buddha's teachings, the Dharma, prior to realizing the truth for oneself. Faith of itself is never regarded as sufficient for the attainment of enlightenment. The Buddha himself described the path to enlightenment as starting with faith, but continuing by practicing the path of virtue, meditation, and wisdom, culminating in the individual's own enlightenment. In Buddhism, blind faith is not regarded highly. Only regular practice can lead to true faith and conviction born of realization. It is this faith and practice that has spread across the globe. The Venerable Master quotes the Diamond Sutra as stating that we as devotees must use our open-minded spirit of altruism to be tolerant of diversity. Otherwise, if we cannot liberate ourselves, how can we speak of benefiting others? Venerable Master tells us that Buddhism has been tolerant from the beginning. The Buddha himself promoted the idea in his own lifetime. In that all who take refuge in the Triple Gem, no matter how high or low born, male or female, were tolerantly accepted. The Buddha also treated all religions with respect and tolerance, a practice which continues to today. Venerable Master Singyen has commented many times on the need to be tolerant. He sees it as a form of generosity and a form of wisdom. He sees it as essential when we begin to look at the concept of peace. He stated many times that when looking at the concept and actualizing of peace, religions should set a good example. They should do this by respecting and accepting each other and demonstrating a broad mind and a great capacity of tolerance for each other and the communities that we serve. Surely the first step, he points out, is our oneness and our coexistence. We mustn't just talk, we must act. Buddhists believe that all life is one. We are all interconnected. If we do harm to one, we do harm to us all. If we harm any sentient being, we harm ourselves. Only compassion and equality can lead to peace. In English, the word I is a single capital letter, indicating just how conceited and arrogant the self can become. The truth is, because we have such a strange sense of self, we always think in terms of ourselves, our wealth, opinion, profit, and social standing. We must set the I aside and become tolerant of each other and develop true peace. Venerable Master Singh Yen quotes Master Taizu. When Taizu was asked by President Roosevelt just before his death at the end of the Second World War, how can we attain world peace? Master Taizu replied, through compassion and selflessness. Open-mindedness enables us to become tolerant, and through tolerance we will succeed in being in harmony with others and therefore achieve peace. I remain your humble devotee.
Thank you. Peace and community is what binds all faiths together. I'd like to invite Sheikh Yassin from the Shahzad Yassin Foundation. He's also a disciple of the Honourable Sheikhs from Slough in Berkshire to come and say a few words. I just kindly nudge speakers if you could just close your remarks quite slightly. The Sheikhs have got a very busy schedule, and I know you want to get back to your families on a Friday evening, and food is also waiting. So please, if you could keep your speeches as brief as possible, we'll get through it as quickly as possible. Sheikh Yassin.
Thank you very much, Brother Sheikh. Good evening to all of you. I'd like to open just by reciting, sending some salutations on our beloved Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. As-salatu was-salamu alayka ya Sayyidi ya Rasulallah. As-salatu was-salamu alayka ya Sayyidi ya Habibullah. As-salatu was-salamu alayka ya Sayyidi ya Rasulallah. As-salatu was-salamu alayka ya Sayyidi ya Habibullah. I'd like to start off by thanking Brother Shafiq and all of the organisers for inviting me to speak here today. And for those of you who don't know me, I am a British Muslim, and I am also a dedicated follower of the holy shrine of Eidgah Sharif. It's truly an honour and a privilege to be in the presence of our beloved Sheikhs today, Sheikh Nagibur Rahman and Sheikh Hassan Hasibur Rahman, who are currently on the tour in the UK, spreading the message of love, peace, and unity. They've been doing this for many, many years, and they are always continuing to fulfill the true and the real meaning of Islam. It's a very powerful message which promotes against the very topic that I will be speaking about today. In fact, it's these individuals that have inspired me to stand before you today and speak on this topic that is rapidly affecting so many people's lives. The topic is terrorism. Terrorism is spreading like a wildfire in a forest, killing innocent lives for no apparent reason. And the perpetrators are using the name of religion to justify their barbaric acts. However, I state that no religion endorses terrorism. No religion promotes terrorism. In fact, the Holy Quran states in chapter 5, verse 32, that to kill one human being, to take one human being's life, is as though you have killed the whole of humanity. That's the whole of humanity. And it's become more apparent in recent months due to the recent attacks that we have faced right here in our home country. We've constantly seen terrorist attacks daily on the news. They've been around. However, speaking for myself, and maybe for a few others of you in the room, it's only really truly registered when it's affected us directly. We are now in a situation where we're afraid of walking down the street in fear of a life-threatening weapon, including acid, being used to inflict pain for no apparent reason. For those of you in the room, I'd like to share a fact with you. In 2017, that's just in the last 7 months, it's been reported that there have been over 700 attacks globally with over 4,500 fatalities. That's 4,500 people who have lost their lives. This figure includes women and children, and let's not forget the thousands of lives that have been impacted because of the traumatizing injuries and the lifelong images that they have to carry with them every single day for the rest of their lives. I can confirm that 4 of these attacks were in London, and one was right here in the heart of Manchester, snatching away young, innocent lives. Violence and hatred is the key denominator of terrorism. Today, you're sitting side by side with people from different races, different backgrounds, and ethnicities who have different lifestyles and beliefs. On this special day of cohesion, I would like all of you to make a commitment. Let's make this the first day of many where you will sit with many people who you've never spoken to in your life because you basically thought that you might have got away with never speaking to them, but you won't do so because you are going to try and be with those who are different to yourself. And the reason for this is because it will enhance your individual growth. I want to ask that when you have the opportunity to simply go out and do good, you do so without looking at the other person's colour of their hand. You don't want to look to see if it matches your race, your religion, and your background. Just simply use the simple reason of humanity and, most of all, compassion. Now, the reason for this event is to overcome certain battles. The battle wouldn't have taken place if the situation didn't occur in the first place. Battles have to exist in order for us to begin with them. As you move forward, sometimes you break out of your comfort zone and you go to places that you may not see many people are necessarily like you. You find out that you are feeling uncomfortable, but your presence effect on you, which will remain with many whose lives are changed. Do whatever you feel is the right thing to do. When the opportunity comes out for you to go out and do good work, don't put conditions on who your allies and who your partners should be. You're sitting right now with your friends, but think about those who are sitting in rows behind you. You might never have spoken to them in your life, but it could be these people that are the best partners in going out and changing this life to make this world a better place. I've no doubt that each and every one of you can go out to do amazing things on your own, but just because you can do it by yourself, it doesn't mean that we shouldn't start to be able to do things together. Actions speak louder than words. I myself have been involved in many movements to condemn these acts of hatred and terrorism, and I aim to continue. I believe terrorism has no religion, it has no race, and it has no identity. We stand in solidarity against terrorism and condemn all acts of violence. Together, we will be stronger. Together, we stand in solidarity. Together, we can build a world worthy of those who have been killed and those who have inspired us all in the fight against terrorism. Congratulations to you all on being part of this great achievement of bringing various people from different faiths and backgrounds together. As you continue to do all that you do, may your successes today be the first of many. I would also like to thank my spiritual guides for coming to the UK to continue spreading the message of love, peace, and unity. May we all remain united in this mission and defeat the battle of terrorism. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Sheikh Hassan from the Shehzad Yassin Foundation, who's also a disciple of the Honourable Sheikhs. Now, somebody who has been vital in the aftermath of the terrorist attacks in giving a counter-narrative is somebody who has been appearing on the TV more than I have been. He's been writing for various newspapers, he's been in various interviews, as well as having dialogue with international scholars. He was personally responsible for the initiative in which a number of senior Sunni scholars went to the London Bridge after the London Bridge attacks and made that statement, which was about, we as imams, as Muslim leaders, we will not carry out or lead the prayers of the terrorist, and that anybody that does is committing a sin. He was personally responsible for that. He does some magnificent work. He's a very good friend of mine, and it's an honor to have him here. Imam Kari Muhammad Asim Saab from Leeds, most welcome. Please come and join us and say a few words. The video is coming, I promise you.
Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. All praise be to Lord, Lord of the heavens and the earth. May infinite mercy shower upon the final messenger, Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, the family and the companions of the Prophet. May Allah be pleased with all of them. It's an immense pleasure for me to be standing here on this very important occasion, which has been organized under the leadership, under the guidance of their eminence, the spiritual guides and custodians of Eidgah Sharif, our beloved Shuyukh. I welcome them from the depths of my heart. And all the dignitaries who have been giving out a very important message to all of us. And our host, Brother Sheikh, has been highlighting that message. I won't take much of your time, but I think I'd like to just focus on two aspects. One is our faith, Islam, and what Islam says about peace, about compassion, about neighborliness, about reaching out to others. And the message that we have is message of peace. Our faith talks about God being God of love. Our prophet is prophet of mercy. Mercy not for Muslims, mercy not for just human beings, but mercy for all the worlds. And he showed that. Just to give you an example, that he was driven out of his own homeland, Mecca, where he suffered persecution, Islamophobia, anti-Muslim hatred, all of that. And he did not raise his hands on any single one of those people. Why? Because he wanted to win the hearts and minds of those people with love and compassion that God had given him. Peace is so important in all of our faiths that we have a tradition in Islam, a verse of the Holy Quran, which talks about the life of Prophet Ibrahim. And it says that Prophet Ibrahim went to Mecca to settle his family, his son and his wife at that time. There's nothing around Arabia. So he prayed to God. He prayed to God for a number of things. He prayed to God to give them food. He prayed to God to keep them healthy and alive. But before all of that, he said, وَإِذْ قَالَ إِبْرَاهِيمُ رَبِّ اجْعَلْ هَذَا بَلَدًا آمِنًا. That, Ya Allah, O Lord, make this city a city of peace first. So before economy, before spirituality, before anything else, the beloved of God, Prophet Ibrahim, asked for peace on the heavens and peace in land, peace in the land of Makkah and peace in the land of Arabia. So what do we learn from the life of Prophet Ibrahim? Is that peace comes before everything else. And today we've gathered here to build those castles of peace in the minds and hearts of people. Before we build castles of peace around us, we need to build castles of peace in the minds of people. And we have people around us. We need to acknowledge, whether it be ISIS, whether it be Taliban, whether it be Boko Haram, whether it be Al-Qaeda, they are people who are distorting. They are people who are misusing. They are people who are misinterpreting faith, and they're bringing faith into disrepute. We people of faith here, in the 21st century, this is my view, in the 21st century, faiths are going to be as important as any other ideology in the 20th century. Whether it be capitalism, whether it be Marxism, the ideology that's going to be prominent is the ideology of faith. So we as people of faith have this responsibility that we need to come together, and we are together on many fronts, but we need to show this unity, that those who want to divide us, whether it be people of faith or people of no faith, terrorists, they share one thing in common. Whether it be the perpetrators of Manchester attack, whether it be perpetrators of the London Bridge attack, whether it be the perpetrators of Finsbury attack, what do they want to do? They want to divide communities. They want to create and reinforce this narrative of us and them. But I want to say to you, ladies and gentlemen here, I want to say that in this us and them, we are all us. People of all faiths and none, we are all us, and we want to say that they are them who want to disunite us, who want to divide us, who want to bring division in us. And if we are all together, we can say that no matter what happens, an attack at Finsbury Park, an attack in Manchester is an attack on all of us. It's an attack on our faiths. It's an attack on our values. It's values of democracy and justice, values of compassion. And what will keep us together, just like what happened in Manchester, just like what happened in London, what will unite us is this love in God and love in humanity. I leave you with that love.
Thank you very much indeed, Imam Kari Muhammad Asim Saab. I did promise you a video about the Sheikhs of Eidgah Sharif, this Sufi shrine that is renowned around the world for the magnificent work it does, the lives it changes, the inspiration it gives. The Honorable Sheikh and his beloved son are 4th and 5th generation of a family of sheikhs and leaders and spiritual guides that have guided generation after generation after generation. And it's an absolute honor for me to have them here and to show you, the faith leaders and leaders of Greater Manchester, a short video about Astana Aliya Muhammadiyya Eidgah Sharif, which is the Sufi shrine in Rawalpindi, Pakistan.
The founder of Eidgah Sharif, His Eminence Hafiz Abdul Karim, commonly known as Bawaji Saab, is a descendant of Aladad Khan. Through Bawaji Saab, the custodians of Eidgah Sharif can trace their commission all the way back to the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. Bawaji Saab memorized the entire Holy Quran and would recite it in such a beautiful voice that not just people, but also the animals and birds were said to sit silently and respectfully to listen to his recitation. Several of his students became important religious scholars of that time. Bawaji Saab spent his life spreading the message of love among God's people. He kept the doors of Eidgah Sharif open for everyone. The books he wrote or translated from Persian to Urdu are still considered major texts in Sufi religious institutes. Eidgah Sharif has been blessed with 5 generations of extraordinary leadership. Bawaji Sahib's beloved son, His Eminence Sheikh Abdur Rahman, known to his followers as Sani Pak, expanded the religious and educational activities of Eidgah Sharif. Sani Pak's knowledge, wisdom, kindness, and love of Islam were famous. Many religious scholars of that time would consult Sani Pak for guidance in complicated religious matters. The 3rd generation of Eidgah Sharif's leadership was His Eminence Sheikh Muhammad Habibur Rahman, known to his loving followers as Sani Pak. He wrote influential religious books and worked tirelessly to strengthen the faith. The 4th generation of Eidgah Sharif's leadership is His Eminence Pir Muhammad Naqib-ur-Rahman, known to his loving followers as Pir Sahib. Under his leadership, the influence and outreach of Eidgah Sharif has expanded enormously at local and global levels. The educational, charitable, and interfaith activities initiated by the forefathers of Eidgah Sharif have become more institutionalized and formal. In recent years, the mission and operation of Eidgah Sharif has increasingly been led by the 5th generation of Eidgah Sharif's great Sufi saints, His Eminence Sheikh Muhammad Hassan Hasib-ur-Rahman, known to his loving followers as Sheikh Hassan Sahib, or more commonly as Qibla Sahib. Pir Sahib explained the transition to his followers in Birmingham, UK this way.
बड़ा प्यार बहुत मोहब्बत लेकिन अब क्योंकि ये मेरा नहीं.
Many times I've mentioned that I love my garden where I nurture my spiritual children. I love it very much. But now it's no longer my garden, but rather it belongs to my son, Hassan Sahib. Now, because he's the gardener of this garden, I love this garden 100 times more than I did when it was my garden. What I want to say is that in this garden, in my garden, and I'm talking to all of you, to all my sons and my daughters, to all my spiritual children, that this is what I want in my garden. Because I'm very well aware of the teachings of the holy court of my master, my holy prophet, and I know very well what pleases my master, my prophet. How does he want to see us? What state of ours pleases him when he looks at us? This is what it is from countless teachings of the prophet. Look at it any way you want, whatever position you want to. What we get from the blessed prophet's court is pleasant. Has blessed God himself not said so in the Quran? You are in a miserable situation. You are all divided. You are enemies of each other. You are suffering from hatred. My beloved prophet came with the grace that united those who were divided, glued together with the bond of love those who were enemies, transformed enemies into a brotherhood with each other.
जो नफरतों का शिकार थे उन्हें मोहब्बतों में जोड़ दिया, जो दुश्मनियों में थे उन्हें हम भाई भाई बना दिया.
Under Sheikh Hassan Sahib's leadership, the outreach of Eidgah Sharif has expanded greatly in the areas of electronic media, including social media and television in Pakistan and other parts of the world, where religious channels have a much wider following than in Europe and North America. Sheikh Hassan Sahib appears on television frequently, but his major outreach mechanism is through almost daily large, well-attended Milad-packed religious gatherings held throughout Pakistan and internationally, particularly in the UK. Eidgah Sharif's level of religious outreach is unparalleled in Pakistan. Continuing the tradition of earlier saints of Eidgah Sharif, Sheikh Hassan Sahib has emerged as an authority in religious knowledge. Sheikh Hassan Sahib is frequently invited as a keynote speaker at other Sufi shrines throughout the region. He and Pir Sahib tirelessly travel throughout Pakistan explaining the true way of Islam to the people. Wherever they go, from the sprawling slums of Karachi to the northern territories in the mountains near the Afghan border, huge crowds from several thousands to several hundred thousands of youthful followers and the general public come out to hear Sheikh Hassan Saab speak. The youth in particular are drawn to Sheikh Hassan Saab and inspired by his message of love of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, and by his efforts at character building. Sheikh Hassan Saab provides spiritual guidance that enables his followers to apply religious concepts to everyday life, helping them to become better human beings. In a town outside Jhelum, Sheikh Hassan Saab said,
"Let me just say one thing regarding character building. Who among you believes that our blessed prophet sees us all the time? My friends, you all believe that our prophet, peace be upon him, watches over us. You have this belief, right? But while telling a lie, you should also remember that the blessed prophet is watching you. Whenever you miss prayers, you should also remember that the blessed prophet is watching you. When you're lusting after someone's sister or daughter, you should warn yourself, no, my prophet is watching me. When you're profiteering in the market, you should remind yourself, no, my prophet is watching me. Before you hurt the poor, you should think, no, my prophet is watching me. Before gossiping about someone, you should warn yourself, no, my prophet is watching me. When selling your goods with false claims, you should remind yourself, no, my prophet is watching me. And if you skip fasting, you should remember that the blessed prophet is watching you. I swear to God, if every minute you remember the fact that the blessed prophet is watching you, then heaven will be yours. If Satan never tempts you to sin, remind yourself, no, my prophet is watching me. My prophet is watching me. My prophet is watching me. If your faith in this is not just something you say, but in fact fills your character, you will become a saint of Allah. You have to really feel it if you believe the prophet is watching you. Why don't you feel ashamed while telling lies? Because the blessed prophet is watching you tell the lies. Raise your hands to promise that after today, if Satan ever tempts you to sin, you will shake yourself and remind yourself to be considerate and feel ashamed that the blessed prophet is watching you. We have to make this part of our character. I swear to God, if this belief and practice becomes a part of your life so that you remind yourself all the time that the blessed prophet is watching, the time will come when Satan will fear you and stay away.
Eidgah Sharif now has more than 4 million followers in Pakistan and another 50,000 in UK, Dubai, and elsewhere around the world. From the highest to the lowest, all who come to Eidgah Sharif can and do meet with Pir Saab or Sheikh Hassan Saab on an individual one-on-one basis. No one in Pakistan is so unimportant that they cannot walk down Eidgah Sharif Road, turn into the shrine without an appointment, get in line, and meet personally with Pir Saab or Sheikh Hassan Saab as they sit on the shrine's veranda several times a day. One by one, visitors tell Pir Saab or Sheikh Hassan Saab their problems and ask for his prayers, which they immediately receive from them and the assembled gathering. At the same time, some of the most powerful and important people in Pakistan take pleasure in visiting Eidgah Sharif. Religious scholars and leaders from Pakistan and around the world also frequently visit Eidgah Sharif. Custodians of other Sufi shrines in Pakistan accept Eidgah Sharif as a central platform for Sufi religious leaders to interact and address common issues. International delegations routinely visit Eidgah Sharif for various events and to get familiarity with the true face of Islam. Marilyn Wyatt, the wife of a former U.S. ambassador, was a regular visitor. The previous U.S. ambassador, Richard Olson, was a frequent visitor to Eidgah Sharif. The current U.S. ambassador, David Hale, also visits. The former British ambassador, His Eminence Philip Barton, visited. Former British High Commissioner, His Eminence Sir Adam Thompson, visited. Current British High Commissioner, His Eminence Thomas Drew, visited. The Australian High Commissioner, Her Eminence Margaret Adamson, visited, as did the Deputy High Commissioner, His Eminence Jurek Jusik. Eidgah Sharif reaches out to local minorities in ways such as hosting a Christmas celebration and inviting Christian religious leaders to participate in its religious programs. Eidgah Sharif also promotes women's rights in Pakistan, for example, by hosting a national interfaith conference for women. Eidgah Sharif also engages in an extensive range of educational and charitable activities in Pakistan. The shrine at Eidgah Sharif is an educational institution, housing a girls' school that now has thousands of graduates serving everywhere in the world. They receive religious education and a modern education ranging from elementary school to higher education with affiliated institutions. All girls are housed at Eidgah Sharif, where they receive free tuition, room, and board. A boys' school has also been started that has graduated hundreds of students serving all over the world. In addition, Eidgah Sharif sponsors the education of hundreds of students attending a variety of educational institutions all over Pakistan. And every year, millions of cooked free meals are served and other forms of charity given. Eidgah Sharif's outreach extends beyond Pakistan in the form of biannual and annual visits to meet with followers and to pursue their particular interest in promoting interfaith understanding. By Pir Sahib and Sheikh Hassan Sahib to the UK, Europe, Dubai, Bahrain, and sometimes the US, and to bring to all the message that terror is not the way of the true Islam. Pir Sahib and Sheikh Hassan Sahib met with the Archbishop of Canterbury in 2012. They have also met with the current Archbishop of Canterbury, Justin Welby. Pir Sahib and Sheikh Hassan Sahib also participated in an interfaith conference in the House of Lords in the UK. In the US, they addressed interfaith practitioners, religious leaders, students, faculty, and community members in Sufi events held in universities. In recent decades, a major focus of Eidgah Sharif's outreach effort has been the struggle against terrorism. For example, in a TV interview, Pir Sahib spoke out against terrorism, saying, "Today we are being led astray by people who say, you go wear that jacket bomb or do a suicide bombing. What is the consequence? Countless innocent people are being killed and countless innocent children become orphans. In contrast, the last prophet of God, peace be upon him, says, he who becomes the guardian of an orphan will be close to me in heaven at the highest level," like these two fingers. How can we even imagine we're getting the pleasure of God and his beloved prophet by hurting anyone, by causing anyone pain or any damage? The struggle against terrorism has become more and more the responsibility of Sheikh Hassan Sahib, the fifth generation of Eidgah Sharif leadership. Sheikh Hassan Sahib said
that Islam doesn't give a place to any terrorist, any killer, or any hardliner. Islam is a religion of peace, and the teachings of Islam and Muhammadur Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is of peace, and they provide peace to every human being, not only to Muslims. And Islam doesn't give a permission to kill any human being.
Thank you very much indeed. I hope that gives you a short insight into the shrine of Eidgah Sharif. When I had the honor of sitting with the Honourable Sheikh on Wednesday evening, we talked about you, our international guest here today, to welcome to visit the shrine of Eidgah Sharif in Pakistan and see with your own eyes the magnificent work that is being done there. It gives me great pleasure, just before I invite my next speaker, our newly elected Mayor of Greater Manchester is Andy Burnham. He would have loved to be here tonight, but due to prior engagement, he was unable to attend. But he's asked for his Police and Crime Committee member, Councillor Tamur Tariq, to come and say a few words on behalf of Greater Manchester Mayor. Councillor Tamur Tariq.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Good evening. Can I start by saying what an honour and privilege it is to be asked to address this conference. I think this conference is taking place at a very timely period of challenges in Greater Manchester, and it's important that all faiths recognise the challenges that we face today. Can I thank the organisers of today, both Muhammad Shafiq and also Muhammad Riyasat Ali, for putting this conference together and for ensuring that we're all here this evening. The conference is very much, as has been touched upon before, about faith, about peace, about love, and these are all important components for a compassionate society, one in which we live side by side, regardless of our race, our religion, or our background. It is a particular honour and privilege for me to address this conference, to have here in our presence the custodians of Eidgah Sharif, as we've heard in the video and through other speakers, their eminence Sheikh Rahman and his son Sheikh Hassan Rahman. It is for me in particular an honour and privilege to be before you tonight. I've heard many things about you both. I've seen many videos, in particular of yours, Sheikh Hassan, and I've been very inspired from what I've seen on social media. Also during my visits in Pakistan, I've seen you on various posters in and around Islamabad and Rawalpindi, and today is my first time seeing you in person. So thank you for bestowing us with that honour. And I'd like to touch upon the sister who's here from Slough, who's representing the Shahzad Yassin Foundation. And, you know, very modestly, she hasn't touched upon what the Shahzad Yassin Foundation is about, or how it was formed, or what the history is. So this sister here is the sister of Shahzad Yassin, who passed away, unfortunately, late last year in Pakistan. He was a resident of the UK, he lived in Slough, and he was a follower of Eidgah Sharif, a very loyal follower, and both the sheikhs here obviously knew him really well. And he's somebody who I'd never met, but somebody I was telling his sister earlier that I followed on social media because of his tremendous efforts of working in the humanitarian field. He worked for a number of charities, he supported so many causes, he raised thousands of pounds, and not only in this country, but in countries right around the world. And actually at the time of his death, he was on a humanitarian mission to Pakistan. And you know, over the last couple of years, I myself have been involved in various humanitarian efforts. I visited refugee camps in Calais, in Dunkirk, within France. I've also been to refugee camps in Greece. And inshallah in October, I hope to be making a visit to Pakistan on a humanitarian visit around the Abbottabad area to support a number of villages who are in need there. So I think it's really, really important that we do all we can as individuals, regardless of who we are, regardless of what we do. We all have that ability to make a difference in the world. We all have that ability to stand up for the most vulnerable and to support them. And I think we all have a duty to do every little bit that we can. And I'm really, I think we should all be very honoured and privileged that Shahzad Yassin's sister has travelled all the way here from Slough, and she's keeping alive his name and his work. And I just hope that other people, both here in Greater Manchester and right across the country, are able to take lessons from Shahzad Yassin's short life. In terms of the challenges around terrorism, it's already been touched upon by many speakers. Obviously, most notably, Manchester was hit by a horrific arena attack. From my point of view, being a councillor in Bury, we had two victims. One was John Hardy, and the other was Olivia Campbell. Olivia, who was a 15-year-old young child who was attending a concert, and she happened to represent my ward. She happened to live in my ward. And so particularly in the community that I live in, it was a very difficult time, one in which people weren't really sure about how to go about things. Could they get to know the family? Could they express condolences? So it was a very unique time, and one in which different people and different religions and different communities did come together. But what is really, really important following the Manchester Arena attack is that we don't remember the person who carried out the attack or the people that he was connected to. We remember the victims and their families, but we also remember the true champions of Manchester who acted with great courage and bravery on that night. Whether they were people in and around the area, whether they were taxi drivers, whether they were takeaway workers, whether they were employees within hotels, or whether they were our emergency services who were incredible both on that evening and days and weeks following. In terms of the response on behalf of Greater Manchester, and in particular it's been mentioned about the Mayor Andy Burnham, we also have a Deputy Mayor in Baroness Beverly Hughes, who was recently appointed the Deputy Mayor for Police and Crime. And she will be leading on the areas and responsibilities that were previously held by the Police and Crime Commissioner. And what Andy Burnham has set out to do is to order a review into the response around the Manchester Arena attack, to see how things were responded to assess the situation, and to see if there's any lessons learned from a Greater Manchester point of view, should we face similar circumstances in the future. And another thing that is happening from a Greater Manchester level is Andy Burnham has been very, very clear that the prevent strategies set out by national government hasn't worked and is failing our communities. And he set out to implement a Greater Manchester response to prevent. And he's asked the leader of Bury Council, who was a member of Andy Burnham's top mayoral team, Rishi Shori, to carry out that review, to chair a commission who over the next 18 months will deliberate on the findings and hopefully will recommend to the Mayor a Greater Manchester response to prevent. And also, as we gather here today, I think it's very poignant to remember the recent attack on a mosque in Newton Heath that took place, which is not too far away from here. The mosque was burnt down. And let's be clear, this was a hate crime. It was a hate crime against a place of worship, and it could have happened to any place of worship, in terms of connected to any other faith. But let's not get away from the fact that these are very, very challenging times for the Muslim community and for those of us that follow the religion of Islam. And I think it is really, really important that young people like myself and other people from within our communities, those of us that are in leadership positions, do our bit to call it out and do our bit to tackle it as well. And it is important that the Muslim community is supported both at a grassroots level but also at a strategic level, and to ensure that we have the safety and the security of all our communities at the heart of everything that we do. And it's with those words I just want to end, and it's important that we take away the message of peace, love and tolerance, which this conference is all about. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Timur Tariq, on behalf of Greater Manchester's elected Mayor, Andy Burnham. It gives me great pleasure to introduce my next speaker, representing the Jewish community. When the Finsbury Park terrorist attack happened, literally hours after it happened, the first people on the scene offering their support, their solidarity, and their local Jewish community policing that was on the scene within hours, offering solidarity, support. And the chief rabbi of the Jewish community here in the United Kingdom was very quick to say an attack against a mosque is an attack against the Jewish community. And we saw that so often. And yes, we disagree. I hope I can say this publicly. We disagree on the issue of the Middle East from time to time. But on the issue of anti-Semitism, on Islamophobia, on the threat from terrorism and the far right, we're absolutely united together. So it's a great honor for me to welcome the Rabbi Warren Elf to come and address us.
I'm not sure we would always disagree on some of the things in the Middle East. There are one or two things, but I'd probably agree with a lot more than you think we might agree on. So, but that's with my other hat on for forum of discussion on Israel and Palestine. But I'm very aware that tomorrow is 2 months since the Manchester attack. And the attack in Westminster was 4 months ago. And there's been other things since: the London Bridge, Finsbury Park, just mentioned the Newton Heath Masjid, the Nasfat Masjid, and I was privileged with Sukhbi, who's already spoken this evening, to have been with them for Jummah prayers this afternoon, and we'll join them on the peace walk to the possible centre they might be using while the masjid is rebuilt. I think it's very important that all of us, leaders of faith communities, representatives of faith communities and members, come together at these times to express our horror at the atrocities, and that we all reach out together and stand together, because we do have the same message. As a Jew and a rabbi, I'm very aware that we believe that God created all of humanity, but Salamo, as we say in Hebrew, in God's image. That's not a physical image, but it's more along the lines that we see that there's a divine spark in each of us. Maybe we could even regard that divine spark as our life force. We each contain our divine spark. Each of us is unique, but each of us, every human being, is equally special. We are all equal, all different, but all equally special and of equal importance. And as a result of that, because of that, we should have respect. We are all due respect. Each of us deserves to be treated with equal respect. And that also implies that each of us must treat everyone else with equal and full respect. The words that we use to each other and about each other are also important, also have a massive impact, effect, and power. And the words we use have to be careful. We talk about in the creation story in Bereshit, in Genesis, in the Bible, we talk about the fact that it was God's words that brought creation into being. Our words too can have an important effect and a massive impact, and we need to be careful with the words that we use. And of course, words can lead to actions as well. And it's the actions and the way we treat each other, the things we do to each other, but also maybe for each other, that are important. It's that respect, and also leading to care and hopefully love for each other. And two of the most important teachings in Judaism that I believe are there, that I think are common themes throughout every faith, are about love. Love your neighbor as you love yourself is one of the most important teachings in Judaism. And I'm very aware that some people say, yes, it says your neighbor, it doesn't refer to others. But it's only 15 verses further on in the same chapter, in the same book of the Torah, that says you should love the stranger as you love yourself. And we're reminded of the importance of that, because we were strangers in the land of Egypt and we were made slaves. I'm not blaming Egypt for that. That's you know, some of the best people I know are Egyptians, and we've moved on a long way. But the idea of loving our neighbor and loving the stranger, it's respect and love are two important teachings. And then Torah also has two other important teachings. One of them is about peace. There aren't many things we should seek and actively pursue, but peace is one of the things. Salam, shalom, peace is one of the most important things, and we have a duty, it's a mitzvah, a responsibility to actively pursue peace whenever, wherever we can, whenever and wherever we are, in all places, at all times. And interestingly, the only other thing in Torah that we should actively do is pursue justice. Tzedek, tzedek. It's repeated the word tzedek, 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 tirdof. Justice, justice you shall pursue. Respect, love, peace, and justice. Those are the things that we have a duty and a responsibility to actively work towards. Encourage our fellow human beings of all persuasions, whether they are religious or not, that it's those things, those ideals that we hold as ultimate values, as shared values for all of us. And I know that in Islam, in the Quran, in the Bible, not just the Hebrew Bible, but the New Testament, these are ideals. And in the other religious teachings of Sikhs, of Hindus, of Jains, of Baha'is, those are the things we want. And I'm not sure how many long minutes I've had, but I'd just like to end with a little Hebrew song, which includes some Arabic as well. It's a song that says we can still achieve peace. Peace will still come for us and for everyone. Peace for all of us, for all the worlds. Peace, peace. You'll recognize the word for peace. Od yavo shalom aleinu, od yavo shalom aleinu, od yavo shalom aleinu ve'al kulam. Salam aleinu ve'al kol ha'olam. Salam, salam, salam aleinu ve'al kol ha'olam. Salam, salam.
A hidden talent. If you have any bookings, come and see me. I'll give you a nice rate, as they say. Yeah, absolutely. Mitzvahs as well. I've got around 4 speakers before we ask the Honourable Sheikhs to come on, so I'd ask those 4 speakers to keep their comments as brief as possible. You are the reason people are still waiting for the food is ready, so if you want to blame anybody, just blame these. I'm joking. It gives me great pleasure to introduce the newly elected member of the European Parliament. In his first public engagement, he's chosen Oldham, he's chosen this esteemed gathering to make his comments. He's just about got settled in. If I can just thank Afzal Khan. Afzal Khan, you stood as a candidate in the by-election in Manchester, Gorton, and we had a double reason if you won that we would get Wajid in. And so some of us worked extremely hard to get you in, get rid of you from Brussels. And now we have Wajid Khan. He's a good friend. Ladies and gentlemen, Wajid Khan, the member of the European Parliament here in the Northwest.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum and good evening. I would say one really important thing is that so far you can see I'm the younger Khan, but not the better looking Khan. That's what the message is from the European Parliament. There's a little secret here. I'm here in Oldham, and at this venue, and people would often ask me what my link to faith. I'm absolutely privileged that my strongest link to faith is this venue here, the European Islamic Centre. Is actually my uncle, relative, my father's cousin, Mr. Kari Muhammad Iqbal Sahab, who is the chairman of the, not just Interfaith in Oldham, but the centre. So it's great to be here. So it's like a family outing, this for me in particular. I want to say a few words because I don't want to be between the food and to you guys. Let me first of all give my own personal welcome to Honourable Respected Sheikh Naqib Rahman Sahab and Honourable Respective Sheikh Hassan Rahman. It's a great privilege to have you in my constituency, the Northwest. But here in Oldham, this is a fantastic area because you would not know this, but Oldham suffered in 2001, as Bradford and Burnley did, where I come from, with the racial disturbances. So what is really clear, the civic leadership, the true coming together, and there's a lot to learn from that experience. And now, as we go through a turbulent time, as many speakers have talked about tonight, we should show that same compassion, unity, and solidarity. It is really important, as Sister Sikh said earlier before, is that there's this message, and the terrorists want to divide us. But we must not let them divide us. We must work together and be proactive rather than reactive. And it's great to hear so many religious leaders this evening, and it's been really inspiring to hear a range of spectrum. But one of the things we've got to say to each other, let's work more closely together regularly, rather than wait for something to happen and then come together. Because this is, as Sheikh Imam Kari from Leeds, my esteemed colleague, said before, is that the next few years are going to be very challenging in terms of faithism against all kinds of isms in the future. So my message to people here tonight is, listen people, we've got to get to know each other better as faiths. We must have these difficult conversations. We've got to first, we have to interact, because only when you interact you get to know. And once you know, you can understand. So this cycle of interaction, knowing and understanding has to happen. And this is why I say we've got to have these difficult conversations. Are we really friends with each other? Do we just tolerate each other? And it's no good. We shouldn't just tolerate each other. We should celebrate each other. Let me give you one quick example, because I know we have to go. Let me say something to you. My accountant is from Jewish background. He saves me a lot of money, by the way. He's a great guy. I don't just deal with him just with accounts. We have a good conversation about the issues. We have difficult conversations about Israel, Palestine, Middle East, because we are comfortable to have that. We have that friendship. And when there's friendship, there's sincerity, and we can have these conversations. And he sent me a speech last week about the one he made when he attended an iftari party. And his speech was on Islamophobia. So this is where we are, people. So ladies and gentlemen, it's been a great honor and privilege to be here tonight, and thank you very much for Muhammad Shafiq and all the team that's organized this fantastic conference. And thank you, Sheikh from Eidgah Sharif. You guys have come all the way from Pakistan to here in UK, and you as a country have suffered so much in terms of terrorism. But for you to come here in the Northwest, in Oldham, it means a lot to us all here. May Allah bless you all and have a wonderful tour of the UK. Jazakallah.
Thank you very much, Wajid Khan, MEP, Member of the European Parliament. We look forward to your next few years, which will be very busy. Brexit. So I'll keep you in a job for the next few years at least. Thank you so much for joining us as well. It gives me great pleasure to introduce Sheikh Muhammad Umar Ibn Ramadan, who is the chairman of the Ramadan Foundation. He's a member of the Markazi Jamaat al-Sunnat UK Majlis Shura. He also happens to be my brother. And he's going to come and talk about the work that he's done. He's just come back from Iraq, where he has led a delegation of international scholars to go and meet the victims of ISIS, Daesh, and the community recovering from terrorism there. Sheikh Muhammad Umar.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wa sallallahu ta'ala ala Sayyidina wa Habibina wa Mawlana Muhammad وعلى آله الطيبين والطاهرين والصحابته رضوان اللهم عليهم أجمعين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته. My dear respectful scholars, imams, and members of the various religions that are being represented here today, I want to share an incident from the seerah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, which emphasizes this concept of peace and love. I think there's no need for anyone to re-emphasize the message of Islam, which stands for peace. We've heard it many times on television. We've read many times from various scholars, but there's an incident in the seerah in which the Prophet ﷺ comes back to Mecca, which Al-Muwardi, the great Imam, and one of the great juristical scholars, uses in his major works. And it is the incident of this concept of revenge. An eye for an eye, a life for a life. You harm me, I harm you. Because this is the message of Daesh, Al-Qaeda, Taliban, Boko Haram. What is their message? Those people who perpetrated this act in Manchester, this lunatic, or any other person around the world, what is the core message? It is the message that we want revenge. You harm us and we harm you. You bomb Iraq or other areas, and we will use any means within our own justification to legitimize that. So it brings me to that small incident of after he was persecuted for 13 years. He was humiliated, he was thrown out of Mecca, he lost everything. Yet when he returned back to Mecca, and this is something which Montgomery Watts, the late Montgomery Watts, a unique professor who was a professor of Arabic at Edinburgh University, a unique human being speaks on specifically. He says one of the unique things is, after he was persecuted, after he was humiliated, he had the right to revenge. He had the right to enter into Mecca. He told his followers, and he says, Man dakhala bab Abu Sufyan fahuwa amina. He says, whoever enters the house of Abu Sufyan, who is the leader of Mecca, who was at that time the head person who was persecuting the Muslims, he says, whoever enters his house, he is safe. Whoever enters the mosque, he is safe. He looks at the Quraysh, these people who humiliated him, who killed his followers, who tortured his followers, who killed women and children, who showed no decency to him. He looks at them and he says, "Idhubu fa'antum tulaqa." He says, go, for today you are free. He did not reply back to them with an act of violence. Why? Because he in his essence is a mercy. Has the Qari recited the famous surah, verse in the Quran, وَمَا أَرْسَلْنَكَ إِلَّا رَحْمَةً لِلْعَالَمِينَ, that he is a mercy to every single thing. And Imam Ibn Tahir al-Abi Bakr, one of the great A'immah scholars, he says that he isn't just a mercy, he says everything about him is a mercy. One of the things that we lack is people are not aware of the true nature of Muhammadiyah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. This is one of the reasons why, and I've sat with former members of Daesh in Iraq, and I spoke to them when I was in Iraq. I met one individual who was in jail. He was captured by the Christian brigade that just liberated Mosul very recently, and inshallah, extremely soon we'll be visiting Mosul to see for ourselves what's happening there. And I asked him simple questions on Islam. He had no knowledge on it. The reason why these people are becoming brainwashed is because of the lack of knowledge of Islam that they have. We have to take responsibility, my dear respectful brothers. Imams, scholars must take more initiative in preaching the message of peace and love and tranquility. But at the same time, we must have engagement. I finish off with this point. We must have engagement where we have a truthful debate about what causes a mad person to put a bomb on himself and go to, Manchester and kill innocent people. We must debate about foreign policy. We must debate about justice and peace and tranquility. And we must, through our MPs, either newly elected or those that are serving in public office, that we lobby them, that we do not allow our countries to go around the world to bomb other countries, that we call an end to all types of persecution. All types of violence, terrorism is wrong. Be it state terrorism or be it individual terrorism, we condemn it, and we must all stand together, united. But we must have an honest debate. one of the things that, and this is my final comment, we cannot put it beneath the carpet. We all condemn Daesh. We all condemn Taliban. We all condemn Al-Qaeda. We all hate Boko Haram. But we have to look at the root causes of what made these people do what they did, and then go towards an international platform of counter-attacking it and giving the real version of religion to the world. So I pray that this isn't just a normal event where we just speak about condemnation, but we come together, that we have workshops, that we have programs, that we can sit together to educate each other about how we can defeat this evil ideology. It's an extremely evil ideology. It has no religion. It has no background. It doesn't represent any Muslim, be it anywhere in the world. These are a small number of evil individuals that want to cause maximum harm. We وجزاكم الله خيرا فالسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
Thank you very much, Sheikh Muhammad Umar. So, the police are a really important institution, and the immediate aftermath of the Manchester attack, which I saw with my own eyes, I was, there hours, minutes before it happened. And you look at London, you look at Finsbury Park, you look at the rise of acid attacks, the Manchester firebombing of the mosque just up the road here. The police have been part of that. The chief constable, who was invited, was supposed to be here tonight, but due to an urgent meeting couldn't be here. Instead, we've welcoming Inspector Bash. His name is Bashar, but we all call him Bash. Bash Anwar is a very good friend, to come forward and say a few words on behalf of the police, Greater Manchester Police, who are doing a magnificent job in our county. Councillor Bash Anwar. The end is in sight. There's just a couple more speakers, and then we'll hear from the Honourable Sheikhs, and then I promise you dinner. Dinner's popular. Thank you.
Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Assalamu alaikum. I won't keep you long because I wasn't supposed to be speaking today, so it's a bit of a surprise to me and to everyone here. So I won't stay very long. I'll just say a few words. Firstly, I'd like to say it's an honour to be invited here today to sit in the presence of these honourable guests, the two Sheikhs, and I'm really delighted to be able to bring one of my officers with me as well, because it is a multi-faith forum, so he's also happy to be here. Last few months, I have to say, have been very, very challenging for us as a police service. The night of the 22nd of May, when the bomb went off in Manchester, I'd gone to bed at 1 o'clock in the morning. And then 4 o'clock that same morning, 3 hours later, I got a phone call saying, "There's a bomb gone off in Manchester, can you come in?" So I got ready, came in, 5 o'clock in the morning, made my way over to Manchester. 6 o'clock I was outside the arena, looking after the cordon. And I was there till 8:30 that night. I finished at 9:30, and I was back in at 7 o'clock in the morning. And that went on for myself and my officers for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, working 12-hour shifts. The week after the bomb, Ramadan started, so we were working 12-hour shifts in the heat whilst fasting. So it's not myself, but my respect goes out to all the officers of Greater Manchester, and not just the police, but the emergency services, the ambulance service, the fire service. We run into danger. This is what people say, we run into danger when people are running away from danger. And it's a very, very important thing to remember. That we don't have the option of turning away. We don't have the option when there's a bomb gone off. I myself have worked, I'm an inspector in Oldham, so I cover the Oldham area. And one of my officers was at the scene 20 minutes after the bomb. He was picking up parts of children who's picking up, you know, dead bodies. And now most of us will never ever imagine what that is like. It's something which will stay with people for the rest of their lives. I'm incredibly proud to be a police officer. I'm proud to serve with GMP, and I'm even prouder to be a Muslim police officer. Going forward, it's not an easy task to, there's no easy solution to this problem. So like all the eminent speakers before me have said, the only way to tackle this is through education, through sitting down together, through dialogue. Because a lot of these people who carry out these atrocities are so far gone in their ideology that it's very, very difficult to turn them around. We have things like Prevent, which try and stop the damage before it occurs, so nip it in the bud, so to speak. But even that is very, very, we have our own challenges with that Prevent agenda, which I'm not going to go into tonight. So all I can say from now is that I continue to want to work with you all. I chair the Muslim Police Association as well for Greater Manchester, which we have 200 plus police officers and staff in my forum, and we work with the Chief Constable and we work with our local communities to look at things like Schedule 7 at the airports and to look at issues that we have with local communities, and terrorism plays a big part in that agenda. So I'm not going to take up any more of your time. I think I've taken up enough. I ask Allah to forgive us for any mistakes that, I ask Allah to forgive any mistakes that I have made today, and I look forward to meeting you all again very soon, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum and thank you.
Thank you very much, Inspector Bash Anwar from Greater Manchester Police, on behalf of the Chief Constable, who couldn't join us today. I just want to invite Barrister Rasib to come forward, all the way from London, to come and say a few words in a few minutes. You are very welcome, sir. Welcome to the great city of Manchester. This is where life is. I'm good to see you.
Just jotted down a few notes while I was sitting down, arriving late as usual, but it's always said, better late than never. Let me start off by saying this. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Peace and blessings be upon you all. I'm still out of breath. With the kind permission of His Eminences, Hazrat Sahib, Sabji Sahib, and all the distinguished guests that are presiding over this conference. I've just got a few words to say, but I've listened to quite a bit already, and I think everything, in one sense, for the purposes of this conference, has in fact been covered. Allah Kareem, the Almighty God, says, "You plan, and I am the best of planners." And I've just given you a route, my journey here today from London. Ordinarily, I think I could have got to Pakistan and back in the time that it's taken me to get here from London to Oldham. And the best of planners is I planned my journey this morning at 10 o'clock in the morning to get here for the Friday prayers, to join my spiritual leader, my sheikhs, to be before them and listen to their sermon, and an opportunity to educate myself and gain some knowledge. Unfortunately, the wrath of Friday, normally Friday is the best day as far as we're concerned. Wrath of Friday hit me. M25, M40, lorry with a fire at junction 3, M42, a standstill, took a detour on the M5, roadworks at 15 miles an hour, M6, 15 miles of the timetable, and said, look, it's impossible for me to get to Oldham for 4 o'clock. But here I am. And here I am, and we are all hearing about terrorism. We're all hearing about love, peace, harmony, and mercy to mankind, and that includes the feminine also version. So no discrimination in that context. Terrorism itself, my dear brothers and sisters, is a word that sends shivers down one's spine. And I really mean that, because most of us, if not all of us, have experienced it either very close to our homes or have been at the forefront of the attacks that have been taking place. I've worked at Finsbury Park Mosque giving legal advice. I've also been in other areas where terrorist activities has taken place. And on that note, I'd like to say that the police, the authorities, the emergency services, whether it's the fire ambulance, the hospitals, you name it, they have done a wonderful job. And I say that in the way that they've actually put their lives at the forefront. And most recently, the Grenfell Tower, more recently again in Manchester with the mosque being burnt down. And things are always happening, and there's always a possibility that something may happen just across the road. We are witnessing quite a lot of acid attacks, for example, in London, moped youngsters. So all we're doing at this moment in time around the UK, around the world, is just overlooking our shoulder and overlooking our left, right, back, forwards, etc. Now, like I said, most of it has been covered. Now, I'd like to say a few words about my sheikhs who are based in Pakistan but have traveled the world and conveyed a message against terrorism, and not only in their hometown of Rawalpindi, but also in or around Pakistan, not only in their own language, but also in the English language. And one can see, just having overseen, for example, just checking the news, Pakistan has got one of the highest rates of attacks of terrorism day in, day out, and the number of people that are killed. But more concerning, within Pakistan itself, the sheikhs convey the message that terrorism, wherever it is, whether it's Pakistan, whether it's the UK, whether it's France, whether it's Germany, whether it's around anywhere, any part of the world, it's a deplorable act, is detested, and it's not going to be accepted by anybody who not only has belief in the Almighty, but also has belief in the humanity. I've got Mohammed sitting on my shoulder on the right here, so I'll just say thank you very much. I'm sorry, I could have said a lot more, and our prayers, in fact, go out to all those that have been affected by these atrocious activities. If I've said anything wrong, or if I've said anything out of place, please forgive me. And I, again, once for all, on behalf of my sheikhs, thank you all for attending. Thank you for organizing this event. And it's a very great and a brilliant and an important, significant message that is getting across to the communities as a whole. Thank you. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Thank you very much, Raja Rasib from London. Okay, so it gives me great pleasure to introduce the next guest. I've known him for many years. I've known him since I was growing up as a young teenager, if I can say that. Seen his gradual rise through Manchester politics, and then a few years ago he got elected to the European Parliament, served there with distinction. He's a regular guest on my show that I did on my channel. Whenever I've asked anything of him, he said yes. He's never complained, he's never said no. And if you go around Manchester and ask the very same, and I'm not saying this because he's a politician and people like to lift politicians up, I'm really saying this because I genuinely mean this. You'll see people who will be deeply inspired by him, because whenever anybody asks him of anything, he says yes. He doesn't think whether his diary can do it, he just says yes. His whole life has been about bringing communities together, the Muslim and the Jewish community. Bringing the Muslim and Jewish community together in Manchester is a record which I think he can be proud of. He was the first Muslim Lord Mayor of Manchester. He was the first Muslim member of the European Parliament from the Labour Party. He was a vice president. He was only there for a few years, but he got to become vice president of the European Parliament. Alhamdulillah, when Sir Gerald Kaufman passed away earlier this year, he was selected to fight Manchester Gorton in that by-election. Then Theresa May had other ideas. She wanted to stop Afzal Khan from getting into Parliament, so she called a general election, and what do we see? We saw Afzal Khan get the... I always thought, I'm a political anorak, I'll tell you this now, and I always thought that Sir Gerald Kaufman's majority of 24,000 was a huge majority. In Gorton, Manchester Gorton is a huge majority. Within, I suppose, Afzal's wildest dreams and my wildest dreams, we would never thought he would get a majority of 30,000 plus. And that Manchester Gorton, the great vibrant city of Manchester, elected its first Muslim member of Parliament. He's serving with distinction in the House of Commons. He made his maiden speech only a few days ago, which was fantastic. He's got a lifetime of experience of working to bring communities together. I'm proud to call him my friend, Afzal Khan, the Member of Parliament for Manchester Gorton.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Honored distinguished guests. We have a Lord Mayor here as well, Imams, brothers and sisters. Assalamu alaikum. And here's the good news. Shafiq's introduction will be longer than my speech. I also actually want to thank Shafiq and Riyasat for really pulling us all together. Our guests, Imams, different faith leaders, on this very important subject. So before I say anything on that, I also want to actually welcome our both Sheikh Nakibur Rahman and Sheikh Hassan Asib Saab. When we were watching the video, actually I've had the honor of visiting them in the Eidgah. It's an amazing experience. So it's good to see them here. I've met them before as well. So alhamdulillah, may Allah bless you. Keep up the good work. I'm pleased we have my good friend Lord Mayor, Eddie Newman, whose theme of this year is also actually community cohesion. So I was sitting here and I thought, what should I say? And I looked at the logo and said, we stand united against terrorism, fist clenched, Union Jack. I thought, you don't need to say anything more. The message at the heart of all this is this, that, terrorism, you heard many people talk even today here, it's almost global now. It's all over. You can't say any place is safe. And so what is it that I want to say to you when you heard so much? So I'll just say only a couple of things. I also want the food. But the first point to say on terrorism is this, that actually terrorism is not new. If you look at the history, you will find examples throughout. And the second bit to understand on this is this. Terrorism doesn't have faith. It's important that we understand this. Because if you want to go on it like this, then you will find Jewish terrorists, you will find Christian terrorists, Muslim, and what shocked me the most, personally, you can even say some Buddhist terrorist, a faith actually, which is so peaceful. You can argue about Judaism, you can argue about Christianity, you can argue about Islam, how peaceful they are. But Buddhist, that actually is so peaceful. And Dalai Lama, when he came to the European Parliament, actually picked this up because of what was happening in Rohingya. How could Jewish people, the Buddhist people do this? And he told me something which I want to share with you. And he said, you know, when people label it like this, it hurts him so much. Because it's not the Buddhist teaching which says this. Same goes for all faiths. So don't label it with faith, because actually you harm it. You harm everything. You don't help. So that, I think, is the one message I want to get there loud and clear. The second bit is this, that within terrorism, and the other side is the racists and the bigots, the extremists, they're almost two sides of the same coin, and they feed on one another. So we've got to understand this. So whenever something like this happens, there will also be response coming from the other side. So they feed on one another. And we need to stop this as well. So we don't need to feed them. This we need to basically condemn in that sense. And the third bit, which Wajid, our member of European Parliament, also touched on, you know, we need to work. Faith leaders do have a role. And that isn't just about education. It's also about pulling people together, because all faiths are actually with the message of peace. Their aim is to see the world a peaceful place. So they need to work. They need to do more interfaith work. They need to set up more examples. And that would help. And this then takes us to the point where this work of bringing communities together is actually the responsibility of everyone. So it isn't one group has the responsibility of stepping forward and doing things. No, it's the responsibility of everyone. And therefore, this is a two-way street. We all have to take a step towards the other. And that would help things. And the final bit, and I'll stop, would be the media. You know, we are in a world where the technology, the means to communicate is incredible. And media also has a responsibility. And one of my criticism of the media actually is that their culture inherently is based on negativity. And that is why when you pick up any paper on any day, you will see from the headline news, it will always be negative, never positive. They have a responsibility. They need to make sure that actually they balance things. Because if you keep pumping out negativity, 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 well, that has impact, because even a drop of water keep dropping on a stone puts a mark. Well, same damage is done to the society. So I think if we work it together, there's no reason, because I've often said, and this I promise you, I will finish at this. You know, as a human being, we have amazing capacity. As civilizations, we are connected. As the Turkish philosophers talk about civilization, they say that's like a river flowing. It connects the different lands. So civilization isn't separate. We build on one another. And therefore, we are connected. And this humanity, we share. We only have one world. We only have one humanity. We need to be working together. So thank you very much for organizing this. We need to do more of this. And I look forward to our final speaker, our Sheikhs. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Afzal Khan, MP for Manchester Gorton. And I forgot to tell you, his career is so fast-moving. He's only been in the House of Commons for a few weeks. Jeremy Corbyn, the leader of the Labour Party, has already appointed him to the Shadow Home Office brief as Shadow Immigration Minister. So that's very, very... Okay. If you just remain seated, Qibla Pir Sahib is due to come back very sorry. So it must be a fast career. You hadn't even made your maiden speech in the House of Commons, and already Jeremy Corbyn appointed you to the shadow cabinet. So I'm sure very soon we might even see a first Muslim leader of the Labour Party. I don't know if that's a kiss of death or... but anyway, very proud of you. Peer Saab is very proud of your achievement as well. And I know he really was touched when you visited him. We were talking about you to him as well. And we wish you well on your journey in representing the people of Manchester. My next distinguished guest is somebody who doesn't need a real introduction. I've known him for about 7 years, I'd say, and in all that time I've known him to be absolutely committed, not just when there's terrorist attacks, but in every speech he does, to talk about 2 or 3 key themes. If I can summarize what his lectures are really about, one is about love, one is about humanity, and one is about thinking about others. I hope I can do justice to his speeches, but that's what it's about. And he travels around the whole of Pakistan and around the world, but he's been to places which some of us would describe as the heartland of terrorism. Khyber Pakhtunkhwa province, or if you go into the tribal areas of Fatah in the northwest frontier of Pakistan with the border of Afghanistan. It takes somebody very brave to go in to the heart of where terrorism is being carried out and deliver a speech condemning terrorism, saying that the actions of the terrorist, the Taliban, is an English translation as well. But on the night of the Manchester attacks, when Manchester was suffering, he was delivering a speech in Lahore in front of 40,000 people. And he delivered a great speech about condemning terrorism, speaking about saving humanity, and talking about what the Prophet ﷺ's message was when it came to terrorism. And that whole audience of 40,000 people stood up together, raised their hands in solidarity with the people of this great city of Manchester. He's a great friend, he's a great personality, he's somebody who shows me an immense amount of love. I'm very grateful for him, of giving his time today. The Honourable Sheikh Muhammad Hassan Hasibur Rahman Sahib. Are you ready, sir? I got the look, inshallah, to come and address us, and inshallah we'll then hear from Peer Saab, and then we'll finish off with the Lord Mayor of Manchester, who doesn't need any introduction either. The Honourable Sheikh Muhammad Hassan Hasibur Rahman, custodian of the great shrine of Eidgah Sharif Road, Pindi, Pakistan.
Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, wassalatu wassalamu ala Sayyidil Anbiya'i wal Mursaleen. فقد قال الله تبارك وتعالى في القرآن الكريم أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وما أرسلناك إلا رحمة للعالمين صدق الله العظيم وصدق رسوله النبي الكريم. माशाअल्लाह मैं बहुत मुबारकबाद पेश करता हूँ आप अहबाब को जिन्होंने इस कॉन्फ्रेंस का, इस मीटिंग का इनेकाद किया। इस्लाम एक दीन अमन है और अल्लाह करीम ने अपने भेजे हुए दीन का नाम इस्लाम रखा, और इस्लाम के दीन अमन होने की सबसे बड़ी दलील इस्लाम का नाम है। बज़ात ख़ुद इस्लाम का नाम जो है वो इस्लाम के दीन अमन होने की सबसे बड़ी दलील है। सबसे बड़ी दलील है कि अल्लाह करीम ने अपने भेजे हुए दीन का नाम इस्लाम रखा, जो सलामा से है और जिसके मानी ही अमन व सलामती हैं। अमन व सलामती हैं यानी इस्लाम के नाम में ही अमन व सलामती का दर्स मौजूद है, दर्स मौजूद है। और जब एक इंसान इस्लाम कबूल करता है, जब इस्लाम कबूल करता है, वो इस्लाम कबूल कर रहा होता है और अपने रब से और अपने नबी अलैहिस्सलाम से ये वादा कर रहा होता है कि अब मैं इस्लाम कबूल कर रहा हूँ, अब मैं वो दीन कबूल कर रहा हूँ جو امن و سلامتی کا دین ہے، جو امن و سلامتی کا دین ہے، اور میں اپنے خالق سے اور اپنے نبی علیہ السلام سے یہ وعدہ کر رہا ہوں کہ اب میرا وجود ہر ایک کے لیے امن و سلامتی والا ہوگا، امن و سلامتی والا ہوگا۔ اور مسلمان ہے کون؟ کسی نے حضور علیہ السلام سے پوچھا، حضور علیہ السلام سے کسی نے سوال کیا کہ مسلمان کون ہے؟ تو حضور علیہ السلام نے ارشاد فرمایا کہ جس کے ہاتھوں سے اور جس کی زبان سے دوسرے لوگ محفوظ ہیں وہ مسلمان ہے، یعنی جس کے ہاتھ کبھی کسی کو تکلیف نہیں دیتے اور جس کی زبان سے کبھی کسی کو تکلیف نہیں پہنچتی وہ مسلمان ہے۔ اور پھر کسی نے پوچھا کہ یا رسول اللہ مومن کون ہے؟ حضور علیہ السلام نے ارشاد فرمایا کہ مومن وہ ہے کہ جو لوگوں کی جان کا محافظ ہے، جو لوگوں کے خون کا محافظ ہے، جو لوگوں کی مالوں کا محافظ ہے، اور جو لوگوں کی عزت کا محافظ ہے۔ یعنی کسی کی جان لینا تو دور کی بات ہے، کوئی مومن کبھی کسی کی عزت پہ بھی حملہ نہیں کر سکتا، کسی کی عزت پہ بھی حملہ نہیں کر سکتا۔ اور اسلام ایسا دین امن ہے کہ حضور علیہ السلام نے ارشاد فرمایا کہ دہشت گرد ہونا تو دور کی بات ہے، دہشت گردی کرنا تو دور کی بات ہے، اگر کسی نے کسی دہشت گرد کی معاونت بھی کی، کسی دہشت گرد کو ہیلپ بھی کیا، چاہے وہ اس کے چند الفاظ کی صورت میں کیوں نہ ہو، وہ اس کے چند الفاظ کی صورت میں کیوں نہ ہو، حضور علیہ السلام ارشاد فرماتے ہیں جب وہ قیامت کے دن اٹھے گا اس کی آنکھوں کے درمیان اللہ کریم کے حکم سے لکھ دیا گیا ہوگا کہ یہ وہ شخص ہے جو آج اللہ کی رحمت سے مایوس رہے گا، جو آج اللہ کی رحمت سے مایوس رہے گا۔ اور قرآن کریم میں اللہ کریم ارشاد فرماتا ہے، قرآن کریم میں سورہ مائدہ میں اللہ کریم ارشاد فرماتا ہے کہ ایک انسان کا ناحق قتل پوری انسانیت کا قتل ہے، ایک انسان کا ناحق قتل پوری کا قتل ہے۔ اور شریعت کا یہ قانون ہے، اسلام کا یہ قانون ہے کہ اگر کوئی قرآن کی حرام کردہ چیز کو حلال کہے، قرآن کی حرام کردہ چیز کو حلال جانے تو وہ دائرہ اسلام سے خارج ہو جاتا ہے، وہ دائرہ اسلام سے خارج ہو جاتا ہے۔ تو اللہ کریم نے کسی بھی انسان کو، یہاں رب کریم نے مسلمان نہیں فرمایا، یہاں رب کریم نے صاحب ایمان نہیں فرمایا، فرمایا کسی بھی انسان کو، چاہے وہ کرسچن ہے، چاہے وہ مسلمان ہے، چاہے وہ یہودی ہے، چاہے وہ ہندو ہے، وہ جس مذہب سے بھی تعلق رکھتا ہے، رب کریم فرماتا ہے جس نے کسی بھی انسان کا ناحق قتل کیا اس نے پوری انسانیت کو قتل کیا۔ اللہ کریم نے کسی بھی انسان کے قتل کو، کسی بھی انسان کے ناحق قتل کو قرآن میں حرام فرما دیا ہے، قرآن میں حرام فرما دیا ہے۔ اب جو لوگ، چاہے وہ طالبان ہوں، چاہے وہ داعش ہوں، چاہے وہ کسی بھی جو ہے دہشت گردی کی تنظیم سے تعلق رکھتے ہوں، جو لوگ یہ کہتے ہیں کہ جاؤ کسی کو قتل کر دو، یہ جنت کا رستہ ہے، معاذ اللہ، وہ قرآن کی حرام کردہ چیز کو حلال کہہ رہے ہیں اور وہ خود دائرہ اسلام سے خارج ہے، شریعت کے مطابق وہ دائرہ اسلام سے خارج ہے، ان کا اسلام سے کوئی تعلق نہیں ہے، بلکہ ان کا کسی بھی مذہب سے کوئی تعلق نہیں ہے۔ جیسا مجھ سے پہلے کہا گیا، دہشت گردی کا کوئی مذہب نہیں ہے، دہشت گرد اسلام کے بھی دشمن ہے، انسانیت کے بھی دشمن ہے، یہ گمراہ لوگ ہیں۔ اللہ کریم ہم سب کو دہشت گردی سے محفوظ فرمائے۔ اور ایک بات کر کے اپنی گفتگو کو سمیٹوں گا کہ اسلام نے یا ہمارے آقا علیہ السلام نے صرف مسلمانوں کو تحفظ نہیں دیا، صرف صاحب ایمان لوگوں کو تحفظ نہیں دیا، بلکہ حضور علیہ السلام تو ارشاد فرماتے ہیں، حضور علیہ السلام کی واضح حدیث ہے، حضور علیہ السلام ارشاد فرماتے ہیں کہ میں اپنے ہر غلام پر، ہر مسلمان پر یہ واجب کرتا ہوں، ہر مسلمان پر یہ واجب ہے کہ وہ غیر مسلموں کی جان کا تحفظ کرے، وہ غیر مسلموں کا تحفظ کرے۔ اگر کوئی ان کو تکلیف دے رہا ہے تو اس کو ان کو تکلیف دینے سے روکے، اور حضور فرماتے ہیں ان کی جان کا تحفظ کرو، ان کے خون کا تحفظ کرو، ان کے مال کا تحفظ کرو، اور ان کی عزتوں کا تحفظ کرو، ان کی عزتوں کا تحفظ کرو۔ یہ حضور علیہ السلام نے ارشاد فرمایا ہے۔ اور حضور علیہ السلام نے بالخصوص جو اسلامک سٹیٹس ہیں، جو اسلامک سٹیٹس ہیں، ان کے رہنماؤں کو حضور علیہ السلام نے مخاطب فرما کے ارشاد فرمایا کہ یاد رکھنا، اگر تم میں سے، اور مسلمانوں کو جو اسلامک سٹیٹس میں بستے ہیں ان کو حضور علیہ السلام نے ارشاد فرمایا کہ اگر تم نے کبھی کسی غیر مسلم کو تکلیف دی، کسی غیر مسلم اقلیت کو، مائنورٹی اگر ہے تمہاری کنٹری میں، وہ اگر تم نے ان کو تکلیف دی اپنے طاقت کے زور پہ، قیامت کے دن میں اس غیر مسلم کا وکیل بنوں گا، قیامت کے دن میں اس غیر مسلم کا وکیل بنوں گا۔ اور یعنی اس کے خلاف حضور علیہ السلام اس غیر مسلم کے وکیل بنیں گے کہ ایک اسلامی ریاست میں اگر اس کے ساتھ زیادتی ہوئی۔ حضور علیہ السلام نے جب نجران کے عیسائیوں کے ساتھ معاہدہ فرمایا، ان کرسچنز کے ساتھ मुआहदा फरमाया तो उसमें हुजूर अलैहिस्सलाम ने फरमाया कि हम तुम्हारे माल का तहफ़्फ़ुज़ करेंगे, तुम्हारी जान का तहफ़्फ़ुज़ करेंगे, तुम्हारी इज्जतों का तहफ़्फ़ुज़ करेंगे। यहाँ तक हुजूर अलैहिस्सलाम ने उसमें इरशाद फरमाया कि तुम्हारी दीन का भी तहफ़्फ़ुज़ करेंगे और तुम्हारी इबादत गाहों का भी तहफ़्फ़ुज़ करेंगे। हुजूर अलैहिस्सलाम ने जैसे मुसलमानों के लिए आवाज़ उठाई, हुजूर अलैहिस्सलाम ने गैर मुस्लिमों के तहफ़्फ़ुज़ में भी आवाज़ उठाई, गैर मुस्लिमों के तहफ़्फ़ुज़ में भी आवाज़ उठाई। हुजूर अलैहिस्सलाम इरशाद फरमाते हैं, हज़रत अबू बकर इसके रावी हैं, हुजूर अलैहिस्सलाम इरशाद फरमाते हैं अगर किसी मुसलमान ने किसी गैर मुस्लिम का नाहक कत्ल किया, किसी गैर मुस्लिम को कत्ल किया तो अल्लाह उस पर जन्नत को हराम फरमा देगा और वो अल्लाह की नज़र रहमत से महरूम रहेगा, अल्लाह की नज़र रहमत से महरूम रहेगा। इस्लाम तो वो दीन है, इंसान तो इंसान है, इस्लाम तो जानवरों को भी तहफ़्फ़ुज़ देता है, जानवरों को भी तहफ़्फ़ुज़ देता है। एक कुत्ते की जान बचा लेने वाली औरत को मेरे नबी ने कहा कि यह जन्नत में जाएगी और एक बिल्ली को मार देने वाली औरत को मेरे नबी ने कहा कि यह जहन्नम में जाएगी। जो दीन कुत्ते और बिल्ली की जान को कीमती समझता है, इंसानी जान की उसके यहाँ क्या कीमत होगी इसका कोई तसव्वुर भी नहीं कर सकता। इस हदीस में अपनी गुफ्तगू को समेट लूँगा कि इंसानी जान के यहाँ, इंसानी जान की उस दिन में क्या कीमत होगी। हुजूर अलैहिस्सलाम इरशाद फरमाते हैं अगर सारी दुनिया का एक तराजू हो, सारी दुनिया को एक पलड़े में रख दिया जाए, सारी दुनिया के माल और मता को एक पलड़े में रख दिया जाए, सारी दुनिया की कीमती चीज़ों को एक पलड़े में रख दिया जाए और दूसरी जानिब एक इंसानी जान को रखा जाए, अल्लाह करीम के यहाँ इंसानी जान की कीमत ज़्यादा होगी। अल्लाह करीम हम सबको पुरअमन रखे और दुनिया में मोहब्बतें बांटने की तौफीक अता फरमाए और दहशत गर्दों से इस दुनिया को महफूज फरमाए।
Thank you very much indeed. The Honourable Sheikh Hassan Rahman Sahib, custodian of the Sufi shrine of Darbar Aliyah Muhammadiyah Eidgah Sharif, Rawalpindi, Pakistan. I'll just give you a summary of what he said. He said Islam was sent as a religion of peace, and the biggest evidence of the peaceful nature of our faith is the very name of our faith. The Sheikh said that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, said that whoever is a Muslim whose hands and whose voices protect people are the Muslims. Believers are there to protect lives and the blood of humanity. Islam says terrorism is forbidden, and those that support terrorism, those that finance them, those that echo their agenda, those that even support them on social media will be denied the blessings on the day of judgment. Those that have killed one human being is as if they have killed the whole of humanity. It's a verse from the Holy Quran. And Allah, the Honourable Sheikh says, Allah did not talk just about Muslims. Very much similar to what the Rabbi was saying about the Torah, not just about the Jews, but about humanity. And the Quran also says about a verse of humanity, not just Muslims. And the Honourable Sheikh says that the killing of any human being is haram in Islam. And the terrorists, through their very actions of violence, have taken themselves out of the fold of Islam. And that's why when the Muslims say Islam has nothing to do with terrorism and these terrorists are not a part of our community, it is because of their actions that they've been out of the fold of Islam. The Sheikh says the Prophet ﷺ came to provide safety and security not just for Muslims but protect non-Muslims too. He specifically instructed the Muslims to protect the lives of non-Muslims, their places of worship, their actions. And the Prophet ﷺ said if they upset or distressed the non-believers, then God will judge them on the day of judgment. There's a saying of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, by Abu Bakr Siddiq, may Allah be pleased with him, who says, any Muslim who kills non-Muslims, God makes heaven forbidden for them. You hear it from the terrorists who say, we're going to heaven, we're going to get 70 virgins, hoods. Where in reality the Sheikh is saying they will go to hell. They have no place in heaven. And if you put the whole goods of the world to one side, on one side, and if you put the saving of one human life on one side, that life is more sacred to God than the whole world combined. That, I hope I've done justice to your topic, Hazrat. Thank you very much. MashaAllah. I want to introduce my final speaker before we introduce the Lord Mayor. He's the custodian of the Darbar-e Muhammadiyya Eidgah Sharif in Rawalpindi. I hope just one word, Azur, if possible. It's a great honor for us to have Sheikh Muhammad Nakibur Rahman Sahib, a great personality, loved by millions around the world, and we're blessed to have him in our gathering. Sheikh Muhammad Nakibur Rahman Sahib, the custodian of Astana Aliyah Muhammadiyya Eidgah Sharif. Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. I'm here just to thank organizers of this beautiful platform, because right now definitely we need such type of platforms. If we the main thing, if we stand together, we should trust all positive elements. We should trust each other. It's a very little minority who are playing with people's lives, and if we just stand together, we join hands for the betterment of the world, I think so. Since I've been traveling throughout the world, we can easily get out of these foolish things, these terrorist people, terrorism, and hardliners. So I would just request all of you that we should have full faith in it, that it's just a matter of time we are going to get out of it. And I always wish that the time comes in my life that the word handed over to me by my parents, when I talk about that word what the word used to be like that, like my children, they don't believe in it. We just traveled throughout the world. There was no security problems, nothing doing with all these things. So please, what I want to say, that the main thing is that we should have trust in each other. Whoever stands with us against terrorism, we should trust him. And if we just have full trust, we can just get out of all these problems, and we should work for the betterment of the world. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. The Honourable Sheikh Muhammad Nakibur Rahman Sahib, custodian of the Sufi shrine of Eidgah Sharif in Rawalpindi, Pakistan. Absolute honor for us to have him. As I said, he's loved by millions around the world, and he's even appreciated by his, I don't think he has many enemies, but I'm sure there might be a few out there. They appreciate him as well because of his taqwa, his belief, his compassion, his simplicity, and his unique ability to show love to all people. And Azad, it's an absolute honor to be close to you and to receive your blessings. I pray to God that Allah gives you a long life. Allah blesses your beloved son. May Allah give you the ability to continue. Just before I call our final speaker, just when we finish with the Lord Mayor, I just ask you to all come up. We want to take a picture, which is going to go out to all the media of us together in a group photograph with all the scholars and guests. Then we'll hear, we just want to hear from the Lord Mayor, Eddie Newman, who's been a presence of Manchester for so many years, even before I was born. Can I say that? He was a distinguished councillor for many years, and he then went to represent the Northwest in the European Parliament for 5 years. I think it was sometime in the 80s. 15 years, okay. He made a significant contribution there. He then come back to his base. What his passion is community politics, representing Manchester. and he took up his post as the Lord Mayor of Manchester in May this year, and then sadly had to suffer, as we all did, from the terrorist attack in our great city. But he was the reason that brought the communities together. He provided the leadership and inspiration, which I saw personally on the night of the vigil, where he visually stood up for the whole of Manchester, Muslim, Christian, Jew, Buddhist, people of no faith, and all communities. He's a great leader, distinguished politician, and it's an absolute honour for us to have him here to close this event, the Lord Mayor of Manchester, the Lord Mayor, Councillor Newman, Eddie Newman.
Thank you, Mr. Shafiq. Honourable Sheikhs, elected representatives, including my good and old friend Afzal Khan, imams and other faith representatives, ladies and gentlemen. It has been an honour for me to be here today to thank the Honourable Sheikhs of Eidgah Sharif, the organisers and all the speakers and delegates for coming together against terrorism. As has just been mentioned, I decided some time ago that my theme for my year as Lord Mayor of the great city of Manchester would be community cohesion and mutual respect between the communities and the individuals of Manchester. And little was I to know that only 5 days after I began my term of office as Lord Mayor, that we would see the terrible terrorist atrocity at the Manchester Arena. We were all very deeply saddened by this terrorist attack on our great city of Manchester, and I did not just see this attack as against one particular community, but an attack on all communities and Mancunians. I am proud as Lord Mayor that we saw the best of our great city in reaction to the evil we witnessed that night. As has just been said, less than 24 hours after the terrible attack, we saw a mass gathering, a mass vigil in the centre of Manchester in front of the town hall. We estimate there were probably about 30,000 people that came to Albert Square and all the streets surrounding it, not knowing what might face them in the centre of Manchester. There might have been further attacks or whatever, but people came in to show their solidarity. I was so proud of the people of Manchester at that time. And when I opened that vigil, I did say these words. I said that people of Manchester from all communities have come together at this vigil to condemn what was then last night's atrocity, to remember the victims, so many of them children and young people, and to express solidarity with the families. I said that we thank the emergency services. And I finished off my brief opening speech with these words. I said the people of Manchester will remember the victims forever. We will defy the terrorists by all our diverse communities working together cohesively and with mutual respect. And so as Manchester's first citizen, that was the tone I tried to set for that vigil and for the response of the people of Manchester that we saw in the days and weeks that followed. And all being well, we've managed to maintain that tone. There's been the odd problem. Obviously, we saw the atrocious fire bombing of the mosque in Newton Heath just a few days ago. That was a terrible hate crime and aberration. We've seen one or two things like that, but by and large, we've seen the mass of the people of Manchester from all communities defying the terrorists by not turning on each other, but by working together in mutual harmony and realizing that we must stand together. So my thoughts and prayers, as are yours, of course, are all with the victims and their families who are still suffering and require our support. Terrorism has no religion, whether it's the evil man who claims to do it in the name of Islam or the far-right extremist who claims to do it to protect his country. We reject both these ideologies and division and reaffirm our commitment, whatever our faith, we reaffirm our commitment to stick together as one city and one country. In closing, I want to thank Eidgah Sharif and the organisers for inviting me to close this important conference. I am so proud to be the Lord Mayor of our diverse and great city of Manchester. I am proud of the contribution of British Muslims to our great city, and I thank you all for your support and solidarity. The speeches today have clearly sent the message again that we are all united, reject extremism and terrorism, and will not allow haters to divide our communities. Once again, thank you for attending and best wishes. Thank you.
Thank you very much, the Lord Mayor of Manchester. You might as well stay here because we're going to get together. So what we're going to do, we're just going to come together on the stage, speakers and guests, to take the group photograph, and then dinner will be served. But just as we're doing that, I just want to say a great big thank you to... Okay, I just want to say, I'll just get it, to the centre we are based here, to the venue, who's the manager of the European Islamic Centre, which we're in, Imran Zafar, who's been a great help. He's helped us. I know we're overrunning. It's Pakistani time. I apologise for that. I hope you forgive us. But if the honourable guests and the sheikhs come forward onto the stage so we can take a group photograph. And then for all of you, there is dinner served just over there. There's a variety of vegetarian and halal meat as well. Thank you so much for all coming. And have a good evening. Oh yeah. Just before we do that, there is an award which Greater Manchester Police Hazrat wants to give you and Sabzada Sab. It's a little plaque of appreciation. Inspector Bash and is it Chris? Chris, it's close. On behalf of Greater Manchester Police, who want to give you an award, and then we'll do the rest.
Thank you so much. Please see this. Yeah, definitely. Thank you very much.
Just one sec. On the steps. You want the steps? Okay. Yeah, okay, yeah. Sorry, just moving you on the steps, sorry. Okay. Yeah.